Hey, this is Matt at Automio, and I'm here now to describe to you what a pack is and how to use one. This is a very powerful Automio feature with a lot of applications. I'm just showing you at the moment an existing flow called an attorney certificate, which is just an example legal document generator. And we'll see a couple of packs in here. One is down here called donor, and another one the donee, and another one over here donees. Now, what are these things? What are these packs and what do they do? Well, we often have a piece of logic or a set of questions that we need to ask on a regular basis. In legal industry, it's common to need to identify a particular human, a person, in a document, and the bare minimum information that we need to know about that person is contained in a little pack called a person simple. So the simplest version of what a person can be and how they can be represented in a document. And we can see that by just selecting it and editing the pack that's been created. In this case, we can see why it's so simple. It's a straight line. It's just like a straight tunnel of a road called person simple. And it is made up of 4 questions and their answers, which allow us to identify a person in a document: a full name, a town, a place of residence, a country of residence, and an occupation. Just a very straightforward pack in this case. But because we've made this pack, we can reuse it in multiple places without having to recreate all those questions every time. So in this particular case, we always have to know who the donor is. In this case, it's somebody donating their power of attorney to someone else, basically saying that they can make legal decisions on their behalf while they're unable. And so in this case, the first use of that is a donor. So we give this a name. We use this pack, as you can see here. We've used this person simple pack, added it into this flow, and we've given it this label of donor because in this particular context, in this point in the document, that's who we're asking about. We're asking who is the person who is donating. So we put that title in there so we know who they are and who we're asking about. Then we have a couple of options here. In this case, since we're not using a plural, we're not allowing them to tell us about more than one. We just leave that alone. But a user must supply at least one. There's no point in making this document unless they tell us who's giving the power of attorney. So this will stop them from getting past this point in the interview unless they tell us about one. This switch allows us to either give that customer the ability to tell us about more than one, in this case more than one person, or not. So we're leaving that off because there's only one donor. We need a new document for every person who's donating their power of attorney. This number only comes into play when we do allow that multiple, so we'll make that hide in the future. But for the moment, if you just leave that alone, since it's not even in use for this particular case, and we don't need to edit that pack. We've already made it, and so we just know what's inside it, and we'll hit complete, or in this case, since I haven't changed anything, I'll just hit cancel. Now, when if I pop back to the other side, we've already published this attorney certificate flow, and that means that it's available as an interview and that I can start a new one by clicking this button here. So here we see the interview within the Try Automio site, which can also be integrated into any website. If you just let us know, if you can't wait for the marketplace to come out, which will automate that process, we can do that for you. And so here we go. We're into the first instructional point. I'm just going to skip through these other points that aren't related to the pack because we're just trying to get straight to the point. Okay, so here's that first pack, and it says you're required to supply at least one donor. So okay, now they know that they're telling us about the donor of this thing. We get started and we give a name, and I'll just make up some stuff to put in here. Forgive me, the screen capture has slowed down this text input, but the town, place of residence, let's just say Los Angeles. Normally this zips through, but when I'm doing a screen capture, for some reason it's just slowing it down a wee bit. Los Angeles, oh, that's in the United States. And we'll say that his occupation is cab driver. All right, and then we pop on through. Okay, so now it's not letting us add another, obviously, because we've told it that we don't want to allow another. This is only allowing for a single one because we haven't ticked the allow multiple for that donor. So our only option is to carry on. Now this is where it gets a bit more interesting. In this case, I'll show you the branch over here. If we went down this track here, we're just being presented this question as an interviewee right now. There's four options you see there, and there's our 4 branches. And so the donee type, if we were to say it was a single natural person, we would encounter a pack not unlike what we'd already done based on person simple. And the in this case, they have to supply one because we have to know who they're donating to, but we're not allowing a multiple. It's just the one. So that's not a very interesting example. I won't use that one. What I'll do is I'll go down this way and say many natural persons jointly, which will ask us a question, but then it'll get us to a more interesting case. So let's just skip past this question. Many natural persons jointly, get in there. And yes, we're going to say it's jointly and separately. I think that's meant to be severally, and get into a more interesting pack. So now we've encountered the donees pack. Now, just as before, you're required to supply at least one. In this case, it's a little bit different, but as before, it's going to ask us the same 4 questions. So who is being donated? Who is receiving this power of attorney? Who is responsible if something should go wrong? Jimmy will do it. I think he was from Ithaca. I'm probably wrong. And he is a guitar genius. And just to prove how this works, we'll add another one, and we will include another character. How about Ronald? Donald. Again, this should generally zips along on this machine, but the screen capture is slowing us down a little bit. Town, place of residence, we'll just say, I don't know, he's from Wisconsin. USA. And he is a clown. Now I've got 2 examples in there, so we can carry on, because at least we'll be able to see the power of this. So just to reiterate, they got to that point, and we don't have to do anything differently than we would ask about a single individual. We can ask about many of anything simply by flipping that little switch. This does look innocuous, but there's a lot of power in this switch and how it allows multiple to be asked for. Then we have a point that says that this is just to show that the next point that we're demonstrating, which is the reference, there could be all kinds of logic and all kinds of tracks and branching that happens between when we gather the information from the customer and when we actually use it in the output. And so this point's here just to show that these don't have to be anywhere near each other. They can be separated. So this is a very special point called the donees reference. And I'll just pause to show you how we add one of those. This is just in the add menu. When we're ready to use the information that customer's told us about the donees, we simply go in here and add pack, and we add a reference, and it'll give us a list of all the packs that we've created to gather information from. So to make the one that I'm about to demonstrate, we just reference that donees pack. So I'll just get out of there by clicking somewhere else. And so that's already been added here. What happens when you add that reference is that you get a special branching, which is fixed. You can't really mess with this branching because it's got a very important function. For every individual that they told us about, the donees, for every donee, it's going to repeat whatever comes after here. So in this case, it's going to, we see this T, that means that this is going to be generating a text snippet that adds to the previously created paragraph. So it came through this point and it will make a paragraph. And now for every person they told us about, it's going to make one little text snippet, which we'll be able to format any way we like. And this is where it gets pretty cool. The power of the pack kind of comes to bear. So you'll see all these funny looking pieces of text in here surrounded by commas and all the rest. Those are our tokens, and they're organized over here on the left. We have section tokens which represent the different section headings that we've made, and then we have in the attorney certificate, this is the flow that we're working in. These are questions that don't exist inside a pack, but were just made elsewhere. So if I just pull out and I see any green points, which are questions, that's going to be available, that's going to be available, that's going to be available in those in that attorney certificate section of our tokens. But we're not after that one. What we're after is the donees pack. So when the questions, those 4 questions got asked of the customer, for each of those, we're going down this repeat for each branch, I want it to, I'm just going to delete a couple of these so you can see how these get in here. I want it to spit out full name of, and then the place of residence, comma, country of residence, comma, and then their occupation. So I can just put my cursor there and click, or I can drag the token straight in without really having to know how any of this works. I know that when they told us about donees, they answered these questions, and so I can just get them in here into my content, and I can put whatever I need to around them, wrap it and format it however I need, and to save that. Now, we'll demonstrate how that works after it does these two, in this case, that we've given two in our interview, haven't we? It'll come down, do this twice, once for each, and then it'll carry on after, pending more text snippets and then more output points, which I'll show you in the final. Now there's only one more question, so we can expect that when I go next, it's going to ask that final question. Should we include the clarification clause about obituaries? Sure, why not? And now we've gotten to a dead end, so it's going to make a document. We've gotten to an end point, and that means that it's ready to make some content. So it sends us back to our sandbox, and we can see this attorney certificate that I started about 8 minutes ago has available outputs. Let's see it. So here's where you finally see the power of this pack and its reference. We have up here, if we assemble it left to right, we have the title of the document being represented by this this heading, the very first heading that it found on its way through, the certificate of non-revocation of attorney. There you go, boom. And under that, we're going to try to find, if I just arrow along here, we'll try to find the next piece of content. We went no, and it came along, it went through the donor point. The donee point we chose was many natural persons jointly. It ticked along and we said yes, it was separately as well. And then we got to our very first paragraph point. So this, if we click in here, we can expect that the next piece of text we see is we. And sure enough, new paragraph, we, comma. That's all. That's a very simple little construct. But then, after it asked us about the donees and went through the reference for each, it will generate this format twice. So here, sure enough, if we start with the first piece of text that was given, Jimmy of such and such, guitar genius, exclamation point, Ronald McDonald, exclamation point, and this is all live. So if we noticed a problem and we just really wanted a comma or a semicolon in there, whatever's required, and hit complete, we don't have to do anything else. It's already been published, so we're live. There you go. Certified jointly and severally that. So that's the basics of how a pack works. Now there's a lot more power that we'll get into some more advanced tutorials where in a reference you can then ask further questions. So for example, if you had a larger list and then you wanted to only include certain of the donees based on some additional criteria, you can have more logic and branching in there, but we'll cover that off in another tutorial. So thanks for your time. Hopefully this has put this has clarified your understanding of how to use the pack point and the pack reference point.